Yes, I'm working for UCB Biopharma as head of global analytics. So my role is in this department is to be the global owner of the computerized system landscape supporting analytical laboratories and to ensure that systems we use are used for what they've been intended to and that we have an integration plan for everything we put on the landscape and additional. Okay. So I'll try to give you a flavor of what we are doing. So it's not a blue sky, next 10-year plan, etc. Not a high-level technology because we do not have anything like that implemented yet, but to really express what we've done at our side. So I have to, if you remember the discussion we had this morning, I heard about workflow enhancement, cross-functional process integration, data capture, life cycle mindset, and end-to-end processes. So I think I will be able to show you a few things about those words and what we have been putting in place. So the agenda, I will just give you, sorry I have to do that, just present to you 2 slides for what is UCB in general, give you an explanation on the overall computerized system landscape supporting laboratories, and then evolve from a usual paperless laboratory we have in place to how did we integrate different systems so that we have an integrated data process flow, including several systems. Then we've been struggling at a time to define how we would approach, let's say, an e-transformation of upstream process development, which was a patchwork of applications, Excel sheet, paper, etc. So I'll present to you the approach we've made. There was some question this morning on how to approach this kind of digitalization. And then give you some information about the big global knowledge management program we have initiated at UCB. So just for let you know, this is a company not that big, 8,000 people, but as complicated as big companies anyway. Why? Because it's, we have on the same company research, development, commercial, clinical, on bio and pharma, so the whole package in the small company in there. Spending a lot in research and development, 25% budget. It has been an evolving company from, let's say, chemical activities to primary care pharma, like epilepsy, allergy, etc., and moving to biopharma companies several years ago for autoimmune medication as an example. Oriented to customers, a lot of forums, so things and medical devices, as example, are made by, with and for patients in there. So the overall computerized system landscape, as you may see, it's a simplified view because I got rid of the middleware systems and online data capture for process development and manufacturing. So you can see that we have the bottom layer in here with the stupid or less stupid equipment in here. A corporate chromatographic system, which is the Empower. In fact, it's a new Genesis entity. And we use it for chromatographic, but also for print capture and file capture in the execution of laboratory. By print capture, it means that everything which is able to print an analytical report on paper, we do not print on paper anymore, but we store that in electronic record in the scientific data management system in there. On the middle layer, just here, you see that we have the data operations in the lab execution process. So we have our GMC, so corporate QC and QC activities on all sites using the LIMS from Labware. I don't know if Mark is in the room, but it's the Labware in here. Supporting activities like environmental control, release, QC, standard management, inventory management, stability activity, but also, and I will show that something about that, the in-process control in there. And we have just near that, since a few years now, maybe 2-3 years, 2 monsters of ELN that we have put in place for development areas. We have the ELN one. I was not allowed to put the names, but they are not concurrent. So for pharma, we have the BioVia ELN in place, and for biologicals, we have the IDBS ELN in place. There's no conflict. They have their own intent and their own reason to be there also. We try to connect all the below activities to the several applications. So we have one site which is fully paperless. It's the site in Switzerland with all data capture from all equipment they have directly in the LIMS in here. And as mentioned this morning and recently, it's an evolving situation. So even within the ELN, we are struggling in connecting equipment in an easy way. So we still have some work to do on that. On top, you have the corporate application. So de facto, we have SAP interface with the LIMS for purchase item and manufactured item. We have interface with the MES system, CK from Emerson, for the bioplant. An interface with document management system, it's the Viva application in there. So from within the application in the lab, they can click and they have a document opening from the document management system here, whether it be product specification, stability protocol, or whatever. We have the TrackWise in place. This is dotted because we do not have yet an interface with the TrackWise system in here. We have another tool pulling the environmental control planning, stability calendar, purchasing calendar, manufacturing calendar, and with a link to the specification definition, they compute the future FTE needs in each lab of the quality control department to avoid, let's say, disruption of services in the labs. We have the study reporter in place to generate complex stability report because it was extremely difficult to have that from the native system in here. On top of that, we have CLO remote data entry process that we put in place, and the partner using it is SGS in Wavre in Belgium. So they really, from the internet, they have an access to our system. So they use a front page, and they can receive the work order, confirm they receive the samples, and enter the results with QP validation. So in real time, we see what's being done outside. By doing the remote data entry, we got rid of the Part 11 compliance of file exchange processes, etc. in there. So, and everything which is done in the LIMS environment is captured by our data management system, which is also discovered from BioVia also. So overnight, everything is captured in here. Another perspective shows that it's less integrated than it seems in the previous slide, because we have the LIMS system for the let's say, manufacturing, the commercial area, so QC, corporate QC. We have this ELN for pharma science in here with all Department of Pharma Science. And what is also to mention is that we have exactly the same ELN for research, but as it happens often, there is no connection between the two infrastructure. Research does not like that much to put some change control process in it and some, let's say, restrictions on the way they can manipulate the system. So we have this for pharma science. We have also the same with the other ELN for biotech science. And you see that we always have this gray area. Development, subcontracting to QC, not with the same system, or biotech science, biopilot plant, subcontracting to QC, not with the same system. So for those, we had to create interfaces in there, or we are creating interfaces in there, which adds some complexity to the landscape. So when the approach of e-transformation of processes, we have, of course, the same always mentioned topics. It's a leanliness of the system. The less complexities, the less it costs to maintain. And also the less time it takes to people to learn all tools to use to complete their own job. We have, of course, the efficiency topic, and also the interconnectivity in system. If you want to have full electronic processes, we have to interconnect system. What we enhance at UCB since 1 year and in the coming years is knowledge building based on data and searchability of data. If I start from a usual paperless system, you always recognize this situation where you have the stupid balances, and to be able to get the data from the balances, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 3 in one per system, and we are in 2017 with the ELN and paperless, etc. Because it's not that easy. It's either because the connection is old, or because we have, and it's not visible here, let's say, traduction between RS-232 and IP address in there. Built on that, and I will not insist too much, is the screen so that it's paperless in our Bull plant. Without ELN, it's paperless. So they built the analysis so that they can connect to the instrument and get the information by parsing script coming from the instrument. Here we see the daily performance check of the balance. It's calibration done, zero done, etc. You can see that we have all detail on who did what at what time, of course, so it's paperless and self-documented system. This is for other equipment. And this is an operational launch, preparing standard, waiting, scanning of standard and solvent, and waiting for the balance to send the result in. So doing all this with these standard screens here enables the self-documented system without any printing of paper or whatever. On the lab execution operational, everything is labeled. This is done by the reagent and solvent module with labeling, scanning of product. So you have all those labels here with auto adjustment of, let's say, expiry at opening or expiry date in there. And if you have looking at the analyst, he can sit and scan that he's working with this CalFisher equipment, with that burette and probe, with this and this reagent in here. So in the LIMS system, we designed the analysis so that they have the component to get this information in natively. So it's again self-documented. To go a bit further in a paperless, we use the SDMS, so LDMA system from New Genesis, Waters. So as I said, any analyzer printing a paper report is now printing electronically to SDMS, and everything is stored with who did it and with metadata allowing to identify what's in the document and what document it is in here. The idea is that once it's printed here, with the analysis result itself, you have a component loop pointing to this electronic report. So if I'm in QA and I see that infrared was conformed because the spectra is similar to the reference, you can click on the reference report ID and you see the report as if it was generated by the instrument in there. Now this was a paperless lab. You can see, okay, my lab is paperless, I'm happy, but what with the integration with other labs and what with the integration with the manufacturing process, in-process control, etc. Being paperless in its own is good for the lab itself, but if you want to trace and have, let's say, automatic transfer of data across systems, it's a bit more complicated. So I can give you two business cases we have. The first one is how did we integrate several systems for the in-process control laboratory in a pharma plant. So here we speak about integrating electronic processes for the ERP, manufacturing execution system, the QC, and also the control room, knowing that the manufacturing execution system cannot talk to LIMS. So what we put in place is this. So you have the SAP system, the MES system, and the lab system. We have the usual specification creation. And what we put in place is that when the SAP will inform the LIMS that a batch will be prepared on manufacturing, preliminary information is sent, and the specification informs the LIMS that it should create all samples for the in-process control lab with segregation of view in here. So the process is SAP launch a work order, similar information into the LIMS and MES. The LIMS creates all information to get the data from the in-process control lab. And then as soon as the samples are received, the in-process control lab is doing the analysis, and what we've put in place is the real-time output on a control screen on the control room on the manufacturing area. So no calls, no paper to send, etc., no mail to send. They have a real-time view of what's going on in the in-process control. Once everything is done, MES confirms to SAP that everything is finished. SAP confirms to the lab that the batch is released and they have to do the analysis. They do the analysis and then issue the QC compliance to SAP system, fully electronically without call or paper in there. I have to say that compared to other big biopharma, we have all product specification characteristics in the LIMS system and not in SAP. So the interface with SAP is limited to this. You have something to do, and what is the analytical disposition on the batch. This is for pharma, and for the management of it in the production control room, we have created screens like that. So this is what they expect to be done. As soon as it's done, the information is displayed real time on their control room. And if they want more details on one analysis or component, they just have to click on something and they get more details on the results themselves and components. So this is really integrating processes of analytical, in-process control, manufacturing, MES, ERP, and usual release process. Another business case that we have to show is for the biopilot plant in process control. So we have the LIMS. We need a testing plan for flexibility. They do not have an electronic batch record. They do not have an MES, but they have the LIMS access. They want to have real-time information. So when we asked them what was the requirement, they said, okay, it's easy. We have this. It's upstream process. And they said, okay, we have all steps in the processing here. So we had to mask them because it would give too much information on process itself. The analysis, three areas to do the analysis, and for each of them, at what temperature it should be stored, for what kind of analysis and result, etc. And for downstream, they said exactly the same. It's a bit more complicated in this way. So can you provide a solution able to manage the flexibility of process development? Remember, it's a pilot, so it has to be flexible in there. Combining all those requirements, tracing the samples, the storage, the movement, checking that when we put something in a storage location, the temperature corresponds, etc. And the response was to generate from the LIMS system, surprisingly, a cockpit view for the management activity. This is for the management, where they can design, let's say, their sampling plan or upstream, downstream analytical plan from within the LIMS system, generating all labels for the floor. Remember, they do not have an electronic batch record. They still have paper record in there. So they get the list of everything with barcodes and labels in there on a production area. When they do things, this is the visual workflow that we have for the analyst in there. So you have a visualization of the operation flow from collection, deposit, received, result entry, and test review. And there is also a flow for the operators on the floor, when they can say, I have collected what I should have collected, and I have some results to put in there or not. From LIMS. Then we had this picture, it says, okay, very fine, and finally we had a disconnect between the lab activities in here and the operators there, because finally they do not have screens, it's a control environment. So to fill the gap, we created a tailor-made app on iPhone in there, specifically designed to manage actions. So the operators from the floor can say, it's me, I have collected my sample, I have received information, I have moved it from one fridge to another fridge, where is my sample tracked, and does the lab have a result finally? Just to click it real time. So I want to move something out. I just scan my CRQ in there, and then I scan here, and so the sample is taken as out. And then I say, okay, I will transfer it somewhere. This sample, it's me, I will put it in this location. So on each location, fridge, we have this CRQ, and then it's moved in. We have full traceability of the different status and location of the sample. It was from somebody to this location here moved out by the operator and out then stored in there. The lab on the next floor knows where everything is. The real application is, do they have finally results for me rather than giving calls and receiving mail, etc. So they scan their label either on the tube or in their batch record, and then instantly, so from here to read, it's real time. I do not over-exaggerate. So it's pulling results from the LIMS system. As you can see, these are the results here. This is what is reported. And you see that everything corresponds in there. This is the only one app we have, but it's tailor-made. So we think that apps is good for specific activities and action. Now, for the e-transformation of upstream process, which is complicated and a patchwork of, let's say, Excel sheets, paper, ELN implementation, partially. They wanted to, let's say, e-transform completely the upstream process development and take into consideration what was done outside of it. So we had to develop a methodology because nobody didn't know what to do. Intuitively, we know that we need middleware, ELN, sample tracking, sample storage. What's the rationale, objectively? So we decided to document all processes by all process steps, so cell culture, growing, harvesting, etc. in detail. And then we defined criteria that we wanted to have in place. Efficiency, lean landscape, the leanest it is, the less time it takes to specialists to learn how to use the system. Searchability, traceability, naming convention, data structure, digging into data, and of course data integrity. And when we plugged all those characteristics on all processes, and we've seen where we could have some area of improvement. Then how to quantify it, we designed a scoring card. So for each type of parameter, we had a definition scoring each status, and then we evaluated where we are currently in there. This gives it. And then we evaluated some different scenarios. Let's say, what if we have an ELN plus middleware plus sample tracking, and we look at what will be the potential gain, and we observe that. So putting that into, let's say, practice for all processes give us an objective card of potential gain of putting whatever system in place. If you combine that for the estimated gain per activity, per process, combined with the execution frequency and intensivity, it enabled us, and then you will not have any detail, on the final proposed architecture to support the e-transformation of upstream process development. This is in there, what we were able to objectively report to management to get the budget also. Maybe I will skip this one because it's maybe known to most of you if you are working in GXP. It's the potential gain of having electronic processes regarding everything electronic, regarding was everything correct and all equipment ready when we used it, who did it, was it trained, what kind of access, do we have an audit trail, do we even have a timestamp, and does the company have control on the time management across the company? Still have 5 minutes, okay. We did evaluate some technology. In project, we evaluated even the Kinect technology. The first idea was to, before creating the app, having some screens beyond, outside of the control area, with operators saying, oh, it's me, this batch, I would like to enter data for this, this analysis, and virtually typing in there. So the first generation of Kinect was okay. The second one was much too sensitive with the light reflection on the glass and the windows. So we tried also Google Glass, seemed nice. Headaches after 3 hours of your eyes moving up and down to see at the screen. Limited autonomy of it, extreme high heat across, so abandoned directly. We've seen we have the app, and we also evaluated some IoT. As we said, huge expectations, but what to do with that? So we have a very small, tiny application. Stupid example, we have the chromatographic lab. So we have a sensor on the waste of chromatographic systems warning that it's about to be filled. But sometimes IoT is as stupid as that. So then we added a layer on top. So we've seen that we have electronic processes, data exchange, and we wanted to put another layer, knowledge management program. And then you see that if you want to build knowledge and have e-transformation and digitalization, the two keywords are harmonization of information, structure of information, naming convention, in order to avoid huge, enormous data interchange library or mapping functionality in there. So it's not easy and hard work. As an example, if you want to use uniformity as a transversal information, the instrument ID, then you must have an alignment between the metrology system for what an instrument is to capture the calibration maintenance status in there and all other systems referring to the same instrument ID. Seems trivial, but the chromatographic system is one instrument in itself, but composed of instruments. So it's not that easy. Another advantage of having the possibility to dig and trace data across systems, let's say we have our bioplant production with one fermenter, and suddenly the profiles have been changed, and somebody not aware of what done in the past sees that and say, where does it come from in here that is so different if I look at this? And then you dig and you see that there was a process change. And looking at the process change, you see in fact that there was a pilot plant run that confirms in 3 consecutive runs that it was a good idea conclusion to change the parameter proposed here. and it was implemented in there. And where comes did the ID come to test this is because on the process development lab, they did a huge experiment, and the conclusion of the experiment was to go further with the proposal and see how, and then implement that to the production. So this way you can see this is a change, and the aim is that we would be able to click and see this is the change done based on this one, which is the conclusion of this one. Also, the person in the process development would like to see, we propose some change, does it have an effect on the production area? So you can go down to up or up to down in there. To have all that in mind, and this is my last slide on time, we have a global program on knowledge management launched 2 years ago, combining what we want to do as a knowledge building, house of knowledge, and foundation. You see that the foundation to have knowledge being built in there includes the, where is it, in here? The analytical data management roadmap in here, electronic lab notebook, content management, etc. So the computerized system landscape in this design is an enabler to be able to generate knowledge from data. I will not enter into too many details in there. You see that it's from end of 2017. This is still ongoing in here and conserved. So we have house of knowledge, so anyone willing to have information can click on a product. They see the whole history, all changes in process, where it comes from, all submission files, stability reports, and everything in there. So it's the biggest initiative we have in place in there. That's it.